Elder Russell Marion Nelson. He was born on September 9th, 1942, making him 88 years old today. He was born and raised in Salt Lake City, Utah. His interests include music. His family was very involved in music when he was younger. He was a bugle player in elementary school, and he played that for the raising and lowering of the flag. He also has perfect pitch, and he was involved in an a cappella music group when he was in high school. He also plays the piano. Also in high school, he developed an interest for photography, and he was involved in the high school yearbook. He played football in high school, but he was benched a lot of the time because he was too protective of his hands. However, later, that proved to be maybe a good thing because as a heart surgeon, you have to have steady hands. And he performed a heart surgery on his football coach. He also performed a heart surgery on President Spencer W. Kimball. Also in high school, he was involved in debate and in drama. He participated in a lot of plays as well. He went to school at the LDS Business College and University of Utah, where he earned a bachelor's in 1945 and an MD in 1947. Before he became an apostle, he was a cardiothoracic surgeon, and he was on the team that developed the very first heart-lung machine in 1951. He served a 2-year term of medical duty in the U.S. Army during the Korean War, stationed in Korea, Japan, and at Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Washington, D.C. When he was studying at the University of Utah, a lot of people were begging him to participate in one of the plays there, but because of restraints on his time, he kept refusing. But after a lot of pushing and prodding, he finally agreed. At the first play practice, he entered the auditorium and he heard the beautiful voice of Dancel White. Later they were married on August 31st, 1945 in the Salt Lake Temple. Dancel was offered a scholarship to Juilliard, but she refused that because she and Russell had a life together and their path took a different way. Together they had 9 daughters and 1 son. Elder Nelson often jokes that for the first few years of his life, his son didn't know who his mother was. They were married for almost 60 years, but unexpectedly, on February 12th in 2005, Dancel died at the Nelson home in Salt Lake City. On April 6, 2006, Elder Nelson remarried Wendy L. Watson in the Salt Lake Temple. He was sustained as a member of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles on April 7, 1984, and ordained as an apostle on April 12, 1984, by Gordon B. Keekley. He has been an apostle for almost 29 years. Among his other callings, he has been state president, served as the church's general president of the Sunday School, a regional representative of the 12, and as before stated, he served a 2-year term of medical duty in the U.S. Army. For lessons learned from his example, we wanted to share this video.
I was in a small airplane, and all of a sudden, the engine on the wing caught fire. It exploded, and burning oil was poured all over the right side of the airplane, and we started to dive toward the earth. We were spinning down to our death. Oh, this woman across the aisle, I just was so sorry for her. She was just absolutely uncontrollably hysterical. And I was calm. I was totally calm. Even though I knew I was going down to my death, I was ready to meet my Maker. We didn't crash. We didn't die. The spiral dive extinguished the flame. The pilot got control and started the other engine up. We made an emergency landing out in the field. But I thought through that experience, if you've got enough faith, you can handle difficulties, knowing that with an eternal perspective that all will be well. In Luke 21, The earth shall be in distress, nations with perplexity, the seas and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear. What we're seeing is a prediction that in these latter days, people will be afraid. Men's hearts are failing, and that includes women, because they forget their identity and their purpose. Heartaches will come. I've lived through the death of a wife and the death of a daughter. I've seen the troubles that divorce brings. Children or grandchildren go astray. Disability, illness, injuries. For the individual who is weak in the heart, fearful in the heart, be patient with yourself. Perfection comes not in this life, but in the next life. Don't demand things that are unreasonable, but demand of yourself improvement. As you let the Lord help you through that, He will make the difference. I'm so grateful for the gospel of Jesus Christ that allows me that kind of strength in these tumultuous times.
Elder Nelson shares a story from when he was in a remote fishing village, and a friend suddenly fell ill of massive internal bleeding. Under normal circumstances, he and any of his friends could have cured the other man, but there were no hospitals nearby. The man then asked for a blessing, and so with Elder Nelson acting as the voice, the other men placed their hands upon his head and gave him a blessing. Elder Nelson asked the Lord to have the bleeding stop and that his friend would return to full health and his family. The man made a full recovery. Elder Nelson has been quoted saying, "Men can do very little of themselves to heal sick or broken bodies. With an education, they can do a little more. With advanced medical degrees and training, a little more yet can be done. The real power to heal, however, is a gift from God. He has designed that some of that power may be harnessed via the authority of His priesthood, and to benefit and bless mankind, when all man can do for himself may not be sufficient. I know that there have been times in my family's lives that thanks to the priesthood, they have been healed and able to keep going." With his 10 children, Elder Nelson has always made an effort to spend as much time with them as possible. He would always take either a child or his wife with him when he went on trips. He also made lasting relationships with each of his children and made sure that each of them knew of his love for them. I really like that because my family is very important to me, and I like that Elder Nelson has set that example for us. Teachings that mean something to me personally. In one of his talks, Elder Nelson says, "We live in a time of turmoil. Earthquakes and tsunamis wreak devastation. Governments collapse. Economic stresses are severe. The family is under attack and divorce rates are rising. We have great cause for concern, but we do not need to let our fears displace our faith. We can combat those fears by strengthening our faith. With all of these things going on around us, it can draw our minds from the Lord, our callings, our faith, family, and our marriage. The forces of evil will ever be in opposition to the forces of good. Satan constantly strives to influence us to follow his ways and make us miserable, even as he is," says Elder Nelson. "We must understand the strong influence that Satan has and be able to stand and fight against it with our ever-strong faith. We cannot allow Satan to break up one of the most sacred relationships that God has permitted us and blessed us with, which is the blessing of a temple marriage and an eternal family." In regards to temple marriages and families, Elder Nelson states, "Marriage, especially temple marriage, and family ties involve covenant relationships. They cannot be regarded casually. With divorce rates escalating throughout the world today, It is apparent that many spouses are failing to endure to the end of their commitments to each other, and some temple marriages fail because a husband forgets that his highest and most important priesthood duty is to honor and sustain his wife. The best thing that a father can do for his children is to love their mother. I myself am not yet married, but it is a work in progress. I understand that if we allow the evil influences of the world to get past our shield of faith, it will inevitably tear the family completely apart. I have seen it happen between my parents and its effect on the family. I know that what the prophet and apostles say of this is real, and it's an ongoing pain that feels it can't be repaired within. Children deserve to grow up in a home built upon the foundation of Christ, and where they can see that their parents truly love each other. Elder Nelson says to start with your children and teach of faith to know that obedience to the commandments of God will provide physical and spiritual protection. And remember, God's holy angels are ever on call to help us. As we are obedient to the commandments, we will be able to strengthen the faith within ourselves and in our families, and we will be able to face the sore trials that cross our paths. Your responsibility to endure is uniquely yours, but you are never alone, Elder Nelson says. We may remember the sacred covenants we make with the Lord and to stay true and faithful to our spouses, families, the Lord and His commandments. In conclusion, let us always remember the words of Helaman in the Book of Mormon. And now, my sons, remember that it is upon the rock of our Redeemer, who is Christ, the Son of God, that ye must build your foundation, that when the devil shall send forth his mighty winds, yea, his shafts in the whirlwind, yea, when all his hail and his mighty storm shall beat upon you, it shall have no power over you to drag you down to the gulf of misery and endless woe, because of the rock upon which ye are built, which is a sure foundation, a foundation whereon, if men build, they cannot fail. Alright, we've reached almost the end of our presentation. We're just going to end on a personal, humorous note. One of us had the experience of hearing Elder Nelson speak at a state conference, and when he got there, the room was full, and the gymnasium behind the chapel was full. There were people out in the corridors and in the foyers and in classrooms just listening to Elder Nelson speak. And he started out, he welcomed us all and bid us a good morning. And he started talking about an orange, and he said, if you look at it, there are little tiny pouches held together in segments, and they're holding the juice, and the segments are held together by these white fibers, and the orange is encased in a peel. And if you place an orange with the peel in a pitcher of water, it will float. But if you peel an orange and you place just the orange in the pitcher of water, it will sink. There's an important lesson there. And then he paused for emphasis, and he said, keep your clothes on. So we'll end with that. Thanks for watching.